Redge Nkosi, Executive Director at Firstsource Money, joins us to discuss this. Redge, a very good evening to you. Thank you for your time. Let's talk a little bit about the impact of borrowing by businesses and households. It continues to rise at a slower pace than in previous months. What impact does this have on one's day-to-day life?
Firstly, I think we should accept that there is no way an economy is going to grow without any borrowing in the system. So we need debt, but debt that is productive. And if we see an increase in borrowing, either from the privates, from households, or individuals, and firms, we should see that as a positive sign, because then an economy is likely to grow. And if you look back, you see that it has been declining generally, and of course, with it, the GDP for South Africa. So while obviously borrowing may get other people or some people in debt and therefore bad, but generally speaking, for as long as that borrowing is productive, we should expect repayments to go on smoothly in an economy. And that's what actually should be encouraged by government and other stakeholders. Otherwise, then we have borrowing that is unproductive, then quite frankly, there's going to be a pile-up of bad debt, and that may as well collapse the entire economy.
So if corporate lending remained the primary driver, what would it mean for the overall pace of credit growth?
Well, that certainly is what we want, because if lending to the commercial sector, which is the private business, continues, then there's a tick up in business activity, and that obviously means positive news for the economy, and that translates as well to goods being sold out there, which obviously means much more revenue for them. And that generally means an economy will be thriving going into the future. When we say decline in credit being granted to private sector businesses, then I'm afraid that doesn't augur well for the economy as a whole. And if you look at it, let's get back as late as 2008. Well, even before then, in 2007, credit was in the regions of about 15 to 16%. And the economy was growing at that particular point in time around 5.6%, and declined substantially in 2008. And of course, we went into negative. So it started to tick up a bit. In 2015, there was a bit of it going up, but it was less than 10%. So it has been on a declining phase right up to 2021 and started picking up again in 2022. So if you have a graph that shows that credit is declining, with it will be GDP. GDP almost tracks credit, but not all credit. It should be the credit that is productive. Much of the credit that has been in the system has been, the unproductive credit. Hence, we don't have much of the growth that is expected in the economy.
How are we differentiating the two?
Very important number.
The productive and the one that isn't productive. How do we tell them apart?
Yes, the unproductive credit is one which goes to buying assets, existing assets in the market.
Yes.
If you go and buy a house, if I come and buy your house, that is unproductive credit, because that house is not counted in the GDP. Even if I paid 20 million or a billion rands, it's not picked up in the GDP numbers. That's unproductive credit. And if you go into the stock market and play out there, those types of assets, financial assets of that nature, are unproductive. They just continue, or they just help in terms of generating unnecessary inflation, when in fact there's nothing that's being produced out of that. So, however, if credit to the household sector is for new buildings that have been built, then that's fantastic. That's good. But otherwise, the rest of the credit that goes into the asset side of the economy is unproductive. We don't need that. We need credit that goes into manufacturing, into agriculture, into technologies, and stuff like that.
So what does this mean for credit demand in the months ahead? What can we expect?
Firstly, from the household side, it may not improve dramatically because I think we are all under tremendous pressure. That it may remain a bit flat. But with regard to business, it's a question of whether the private banks themselves go with the credit that they think can grow the economy, if they know at all. But if it is about credit that's going to be just for quick, then I'm afraid it's not likely to be good. But going forward, though, I see that they may be upping a bit into the regions of 5 to 6%. That's very, very low credit number. We want credit to be shooting up to 10%, 15%. Sometime back, we had even credit in the regions of 35%. That's wonderful. But only if that credit is productive. Anyway, going forward, we should see in the regions of about 5%, 6%, flatlining around there. That's not very good for us.
Very well. Thank you so much for speaking to us this evening. Redge Nkosi, Executive Director at Firstsource Money.